What's up city builders, this is Commander Kobe and today I'm going to show you 5 different techniques and tricks that make your city look more realistic in the vanilla game of City Skylines. So without further ado, let's look at the first one. The first technique I'm going to discuss is creating cul-de-sacs or dead-end streets, or however you want to call it. So sometimes in the game you want a street to end in a specific spot and don't want to connect it up to something else. So this is where this technique creates a more realistic look than dead-end streets looking like this. Let's suppose you want to create a cul-de-sac right here. So the first thing you have to do is drag a small road right across this one and delete the end of the street. Alright, next thing you have to do is you select the medium road, and I personally prefer the medium industry road, but you can do it with whatever medium road you like, so this is up to you. Then let's suppose you want your street to end right here. You drag for one unit left or right, place it down, and then you have to select another medium road. So this is important, don't use the same type of road again. Alright, next you connect this small bit of road to the street, then you delete those ends, and finally you upgrade this piece of road to a small road, or the type of street you want to place down. And this is how you create the cul-de-sac. The next technique I'm going to show you is concerned with ploppable objects and buildings. So buildings you would normally attach directly to a street or a road. So I discovered a technique where you can actually place down buildings not exactly directly attached to the road, but a little further away from the street or the road. So, and how you do that is, or first let me show you what I exactly mean. So let's suppose you want to place down a public library right in that spot. So usually you would place it right next to the street, right? But in some cases it's more useful to get the buildings a little bit further away from the street. So this is especially important when it comes to slopes, building on slopes, because sometimes you get those curvy parking lots and they look quite awful, to be honest. So first you have to consider where you want the object to go. So let's say we want to place the building away from the street in a distance of one line of squares. So first you have to delete the street, and as you can see, the street usually would go right here, and this is where it ends up after building the public library again. But first you have to place down whatever street you like one step further, so one unit away from the street. So as you can see, it's kind of one square to the left. Now you select the building you want to plop down. In this case I select a library, and you place it down. So when you delete the street, normally you would get this icon saying that the building is not connected to a road, right? But in the game, however, if you now connect this street to this intersection, the public library is actually now connected to the street network. So and this is actually possible up to 2 units away from the street. I can show you what I mean here. So as I did before, I just drag a road right here, and then I place a building down, in this case a school. So now the spot of the street was here before. So and I go not just 1 but 2 units down and drag this street down here, and it's still connected to to the school. And this is also useful if I want to place down buildings in a certain angle. You can also let's use the school again, do that. So actually you can place down the street right here, and it's still connected to the school. In this case you have to sort out what you want to do with the space that's left in between, but yeah, so it's kind of useful and I hope you like it. Next up is creating parking lots, or big areas where people can park their cars, and it's kind of useful for sport arenas or supermarkets or wherever you want to place down parking lots. They kind of give your city a more realistic look and fill out spaces where you don't want to place buildings or parks. So this is a useful technique, and it's, I think, the most realistic look you can get in the vanilla game of City Skylines. So you have to be in possession of the Green Cities DLC because it comes with the commercial specialization, organic and local produce, which you get with the Green Cities DLC. So let's suppose we want to create a parking area right in that spot. However, before you actually build the parking lots, you want to make sure that the terrain is one level. So make sure the terrain is even and then begin to build. So as I mentioned before, you need to be in possession of the Green Cities DLC, and first you have to paint a district in that spot. Okay, then you have to zone the area. You just usually do that with low density commercial, but I think it also works with the high density commercial zone. Okay, so the parking lots actually consists of cells that are 2 × 4 squares, and so to speed up the process, because they kind of take a long time to actually grow, I try to let most of the spaces grow parallelly. So one thing we have to do left is give our district a organic and local produce specialization, and then we just have to wait actually, and you can also speed up the game and wait for the parking lots to pop up. Often, and this is quite annoying, you get the wrong ones and you just have to delete those until you get the right buildings. In case you were patient enough and read it the whole process over and over again, you should end up with an area looking like this. Now you can get creative with shapes and use those parking lots and spaces in small spaces and big spaces, for multiple reasons. And I think this technique really sells and gives your city a much more realistic look, and you can also do it as a task next to the project you're actually doing. So you can zone the area, then wait, go back to your project, come back afterwards and have a look if you got the right ones. If not, erase those and go back to your project. So this saves some time. One thing left I want to mention is if you want to make sure you don't erase the right ones accidentally, you can always click on the right one and click on the historical building button so it won't get erased just as you kind of delete the wrong one next to the right one. So this just to make sure you keep the right ones. Another trick I discovered some time ago is creating highway walls or using the key walls for highway transitions when you place down highways next to other roads, and when in certain areas where you have underpasses, or you create sunken highways, so that kind of stuff. You can also use that technique away from rivers and seas, and in order to do that you have to do certain things, and I will show you now how you can achieve this look. So as you can see, I already did the first side of the highway in this section of my city, so let's do the other one. And the first thing you want to make sure is that the terrain next to the highway is one level. So select the level terrain tool in your landscaping section, and make sure that the terrain is one level. Alright, next thing is you go to your water supply section and select, if you are in possession of the natural disasters DLC, the fresh water. You can also use the water drain pipe, but this will cause pollution in that area, so I would prefer the fresh water outlet. Pause the game, select the freshwater outlet and place it next to the highway. Then disconnect the highway where you want the walls to go from your from the connections that then take up the highway, and there you have to raise the level of the terrain. You can always use the side as a marker, so create this kind of artificial hole, and do that on the other side as well. Okay, now you have to connect the freshwater outlet to your water network. Now you have to unpause the game and wait until the whole area is filled with water. Once the area is filled with water, you can delete the freshwater outlet and pause the game. So now you should be able to drag the key walls next to your highway. So make sure it's really close to the highway, and that should be okay. So now you have to get rid of the water, right? So, and for that I have a simple solution. Just create a really deep hole next to the river, the artificial river you just created. So make it really deep and connect this to your highway section, and let the water flow into the hole. So this should take some time. Once this is finished, you can level the terrain again to make it even for your highways, and connect those to the on and off ramps and the extension of your highway and yeah, then it should look like this, and I think it gives a more realistic look for this section, and adds really much to your city. And don't worry about the water, it will go away sometime, so you can speed up the process by placing down some water pumping stations, and this will speed up the process, or you just leave it like this. Yeah, this is how you create those highway walls, and I hope you like it. The fifth and final technique I want to talk about is providing electricities for areas that you currently develop or want to develop later, but still want to place down some certain buildings already. So as you can see here, the icon is telling me that the area is lacking electricity, and usually you would correct this with the power lines. Sometimes in your city the area is kind of not really far away from the next area that has electricity, so you don't really want to place down power lines. So what you can do here is to serve as a solution, use those disaster services, and you can just place them down next to streets or pathways, and yeah, they provide your new areas with electricity. So if I just speed up the game right here, oh, it's already going away. So these disaster services provide your areas with electricity, and yeah, I think they kind of look quite nice, and you can also keep them later, and yeah, just act like a nice transition for certain areas. Alright, that's basically it. I hope you liked it, and I hope you can use some of those features in your cities and make them look more realistic in some way. I've already planned to do some of those videos, similar ones in the near future, so stick by, and I see you in the next one.